The sun was beginning to dip low over the lake when the squad car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the growing shadows. I was standing outside the cabin, my fingers clenched around the edge of the porch, watching the gathering unfold before me. I could feel the weight of the eyes on me, the whispers flying among the guests like a gust of wind. It was like I was the one who was trespassing, the one who didn't belong. But it was my land, my cabin, my home. They just didn't know it yet. The officers stepped out of the car, their boots crunching on the gravel as they moved toward me. One of them adjusted his belt, glancing at me with a look of suspicion, while the other, taller officer, listened to the shrill accusations coming from the woman standing by the fence. "He broke into my property," she cried, clutching the wooden post like it was a lifeline. Her face was twisted in feigned distress, the kind of act you expect from someone trying to make themselves the center of attention. We were terrified when he showed up uninvited. "You have to do something." I wanted to laugh at how absurd it all was, but the anger I'd been holding on to for days kept that urge buried. This place had been mine for years. Every nail, every board, every tree I had planted out front, it was all under my name. Yet here I was, being treated like an intruder on my own land. I wasn't about to let this lie stand. One of the officers walked closer, a slight frown on his face. "Sir, we're going to need to see some ID. Step over here." The crowd of party guests stared, some already recording the scene with their phones, ready to see me dragged away. The whispers escalated, a mix of curiosity and excitement. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my wallet, but it wasn't fear of the cops that made my fingers twitch. It was the humiliation of standing there, a criminal outside my own home. The woman leaned in toward the officers, lowering her voice, but loud enough for me to hear. "I told you he's been hanging around here before. He's dangerous. Get him out of here." At that moment, something inside me snapped. The patience I had been holding on to for years, waiting for a chance to reclaim my property, all of it came to a head. I handed over my ID with a steady hand, staring directly at her. "You sure you want them to run my name?" Her confident smirk faltered for the first time. She didn't know my background. She didn't know what would come up when the officers checked. The officer held my license up to the light, squinting as he read the details. His partner was busy typing into the tablet mounted on the squad car. The woman's grin returned briefly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Finally," she muttered under her breath. "This creep's getting hauled off." The seconds ticked by. The guests began chuckling, lifting their glasses like this was some sort of performance. My fists clenched, but I held my ground, forcing myself to stay calm. I had learned long ago never to explode too early. Let them dig their own hole first. Then the officer looked up, confusion flashing across his face. He turned the screen toward his partner, who read the details over his shoulder. They exchanged a look before the taller officer spoke. "Sir," he said, his voice steady but laced with curiosity, "it says here that you're the registered owner of this cabin." The entire yard fell silent. The smug laughter that had once filled the air froze. The woman's face turned pale, but she quickly recovered, pushing a fake smile toward the officers. "No," she said, her voice rising in pitch. "That can't be right. You must have the wrong record. I'm with the Homeowners Association, and this property falls under our rules." Her words made my blood boil. "There was no HOA. I made sure of that when I bought this land." I stepped forward, my voice calm but heavy with years of frustration. "There is no HOA here. You forged your way onto my property. You threw parties in my house while I was gone." A couple of the guests shifted uncomfortably at my words, glancing at one another nervously. One woman mumbled, "Wait, you mean this isn't your place?" The Karen's face flushed red, the mask she'd been wearing cracking under the pressure. "Don't believe him!" she screamed, her voice shrill. "He's dangerous. I saw him snooping around before." The shorter officer raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, he's not snooping. He's the legal owner." The woman's smirk vanished, replaced by confusion. Then, as if the last piece of her fabricated world was crumbling, another twist arrived. The second officer, who had been typing into the tablet earlier, stepped forward, his voice low and urgent. "Sir," he said, "we found something else connected to your name in the system. Something she definitely doesn't know about." The Karen's fake confidence faltered again. She glanced from the officer to me, clearly trying to regain control of the situation. I was curious now. "Something else?" I asked quietly, my voice steady. The officer nodded, his eyes never leaving the woman. Yes, sir. Military service, special operations. You're listed as decorated. The woman's face drained of color as the words hung in the air. The guests, who had once sided with her, now began to look at her with uncertainty. Some took a step back, their eyes wide with doubt. I didn't say a word. I let the silence do the work. The officer raised his voice slightly so everyone could hear. Ma'am, you said this man was dangerous. You're right. He's dangerous to anyone breaking the law. He's a veteran, and by the looks of it, the rightful property owner. The Karen's hands shook against the fence, but she held her chin high, desperately trying to maintain her victim facade. This is insane, she screamed. He's lying. He probably faked those records. Don't you see? He's trying to take over this place. One of the guests, the smug man who had been laughing earlier, stood up, his voice uneasy. Wait, he said, his voice tight with realization. If this is his place, then what are we doing here? The Karen spun around, snapping at him. Shut up, don't listen to him. He's just trying to scare you. But her voice faltered, and the officer pulled out a small folder, his expression turning cold. Funny thing, ma'am, he said. We got a call earlier this week about fake HOA notices being taped on doors in this area. The description matches you. Care to explain? Her face drained of color. Her mouth worked, but no sound came out. For the first time, she was speechless. The crowd, once cheering her on, now stood in stunned silence. The woman's mask was slipping fast, and the truth was becoming impossible to hide. The Karen's hands trembled as she stammered, her excuses pouring out in a broken stream. That's ridiculous, she said. Why would I waste my time putting notices on doors? I was only trying to keep the neighborhood safe. The taller officer crossed his arms. Safe from what? A veteran returning to his own cabin? His words cut through her lies like a hot knife. A few of the guests began gathering their things, some muttering under their breath, clearly embarrassed to be caught in her web of deceit. I took a deep breath and reached into my bag. The woman flinched, thinking I was about to pull out something dangerous, but all I pulled out was a small black hard drive. I held it up between my fingers, watching her eyes narrow. You know what this is? I asked, my voice calm. Security footage. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I stepped forward, holding up the drive for the officers to see. Every corner of this cabin is wired. I already saw who unlocked my doors, who poured drinks in my kitchen, who laughed about me never finding out. The man with the smug grin cursed under his breath, turning away. The woman's face turned pale and she took a step back. You're bluffing, she whispered, her voice cracking. I smiled coldly. Am I? I asked, my tone flat. Because I can play it right here for the officers. And trust me, it's not just you caught on tape. It's everyone you invited. The shorter officer stepped closer, his tone firm. Sir, if you're willing to hand us that footage, we can verify everything. If what you're saying is true, this crosses into trespassing, fraud, and possibly even impersonating law enforcement. The Karen's knees buckled slightly, but she gripped the fence to steady herself, her eyes darting around the yard. She tried one last desperate move, raising her voice to the crowd. He's lying, she screamed. He's twisting everything. You all know me. I run this neighborhood. But this time, no one nodded. No one backed her up. The same guests who had once applauded her now looked at her like she was poison. I leaned in, my voice low and sharp. Take over, lady. This is my land. You're the one throwing parties, drinking my wine, and lying to officers. You forged continue generating.